Hi everyone, thanks for joining me. This week we're going to be looking at a video that's been a long time in the making. It started out as an iMac G4 that I was just going to repair. Picked it up for $10, figured why not, I'll take a shot at it. Put in a new CMOS battery and was able to get the motherboard to power on. And it was showing that it didn't have an operating system installed because the previous owner had removed the hard drive. Tried a few things with it and realized that I wanted to go a different route pretty quickly, and decided that I wanted to try to put a modern build into the G4 case. So I did go ahead and start tearing it down, remove the motherboard, power supply, DVD drive, and any other components that were inside just to get down to the bare shell, and then remove the plastic around the outer shell as well and give that a good cleanup. Most of the scuffs came off in the sink. It does still have some deeper scratches that I can't really do anything about, but for the most part it came out okay. The next step was to go ahead and start cutting holes in the case because there was absolutely no ventilation factory. So I put a big hole in the top so I could put a 120mm fan, and made the hole in the back bigger so that I could at least fit a small form factor power supply. And then I had to remove the standoffs for the old motherboard because they were too tall, and then drill holes and put standoffs with nuts on the back to hold them in place so I could fit a current motherboard. Obviously this one's not too current, but I had a Windows XP build lying around. Works pretty well just for testing. So I did go ahead, get it all assembled just to see how it was going to fit and if this was even going to be a feasible idea. There it is with the fans installed, just an old graphics card just to see how everything was going to close up. And I did go ahead and test it. It worked with this. I did end up having to use a different power supply until the small form factor one came in, but there it is installed, and the case actually closes with everything installed. It does turn on. I had to solder wires to the power button directly because the interface is different for this. So 2 wires soldered directly to either side of the power switch and then sticking out the side, so now that I can turn it on with the button. Here you can see the pretty ugly hole I cut just to fit the power supply in. It will be covered up with plastic later. And here's the fan mounted in top and side. I originally had RGBs installed. One of the fan's RGBs decided it wasn't going to work anymore, so I just cut them both out of there. It makes it more of a sleeper build anyways. These are just fans I had lying around. Getting the power button light to work was a bit of an issue. I ended up having to just put wires directly to a Molex connector because the power on the motherboard was staying on, so the light was always on. So now it at least turns off when the computer is off. You can use the power button to power on the system, power off the system, and the light will indicate power. Here it is playing Fortnite with the Ryzen Build that I installed. It's got a Ryzen 5 3600 and an RX 580 GPU. I started out with the 8GB of RAM. I bought all these parts used. It ended up working quite terribly, as you would expect with single channel 8GB RAM for Ryzen. Doesn't really like that. And here is the rear I/O. It didn't really fit in place. Obviously the case wasn't designed to have a modern motherboard in it, and of course while I was testing, the fan for the CPU died. So here it is installed again, no fan on the CPU. Waiting for that to come in, and I did upgrade the RAM to dual channel 16GB, so it does at least work better when there's a fan installed. The extension cables aren't really my favorite, but they were necessary in this build because the power supply is so far away from the motherboard with the case open. So I just went ahead, zip tied everything to give it a bit of a cleaner look, and then used the extensions where necessary. The DVD drive door serves no function now, it's just there to give it the original look. And it does actually boot right into Windows 10, boots up very quickly, and now with the 16GB of RAM, it does play very well. I only really tested Fortnite with it because it's at least a balanced stress test between the CPU and GPU. There it is with the case all closed up, actually running Windows 10. Rear view, you can see the modern I/O and case open to reveal the modern components inside. So we can see we have a small form factor Corsair power supply, dual channel RAM, 16GB, a Ryzen 5 3600, 2 120mm fans just to get some air flowing through this very constrictive case. There's my cat. Thanks for watching.